Good morning, America. It is another day here for Political Theater. It is 5/9 of 2021. Let me get the Brothers Osborne "It Ain't My Fault" here shut off. And we are here for a very special podcast because, as we all know, today is Sunday and it is Mother's Day. So I'm going to go ahead and give a special shout out to my own mother. Happy Mother's Day. So today I'm going to be bringing to you our next segment. We're going to be going into the upcoming federal budget debate. We're also going to be looking at the federal deficit and more pork barrel spendings, needless spendings, the unemployment rates. We're going to talk about a tax on the global corporate tax that the Biden administration is proposing. They proposed it last week on Fox News when there was a conversation with Chris Wallace, so that was pretty interesting. We're going to get into that. With quite a few other things here, especially with, inflation being a big issue right now. So we're going to get right into it here. So the very first thing we're going to get into that I'm going to bring up, we're going to talk about what happened here last week with Chris Wallace on Fox Nation. I caught this. I kind of thought it was pretty interesting. For anybody that didn't catch this, I'm not a big Chris Wallace fan, but it was an interesting segment. He was interviewing Biden's economic advisor chair, Cecilia Ross, who is pushing, under the Biden administration, a global minimum tax on corporations to counteract President Biden's proposed corporate tax rate hike. So for anybody that's been paying attention to this in the news, I have been, I'm going to read a quote here from Cecilia Ross. Again, she's the economic advisor for the Biden administration. And this was her comment when Chris Wallace asked about this global minimum tax that they want to put on businesses. She said, the idea is to make sure that the corporations are paying their fair share, to button up some of the loopholes, which have meant more corporations were actually putting more money offshore off the U.S. soil, and having a global minimum tax so that we're working with the rest of our trade partners, so that we're working with the rest of the world so that corporations are paying their fair share worldwide. Okay, so I'm going to break this down to everybody. This amounts to basically the Biden administration saying, again, we've got to attack the rich people because they're not paying their share. The corporations aren't paying their share. They're wrong. How many people have heard me talk about economic policies before? I've mentioned it multiple times here, folks. Multiple times have I mentioned it here on Political Theater. The Biden administration has spent this year alone, in a year's time now, and even under Trump, we have spent $19 trillion in a year. I mentioned this in my last segment. $19 trillion in a year, added to the almost $23 trillion we already had over several decades. We are past the point of no return. No return. It's become a spending barrage. And this just goes to show it here. And the reason they're wanting to do this big tax hike so that companies can't leave the United States, well, it's because, again, they got to try to pay for all of this stuff. This infrastructure, the $6 trillion infrastructure plan, and all this lucrative spending that the Democrats are wanting to push here, and Biden's wanting to push here. We heard it on the national address here, a week and a half ago? Well, folks, I keep telling people, nothing's for free. The chickens are coming back to roost. Who do you think's going to pay for all of this? Me and you. The middle class, the poor, the American taxpayer. See, this is what I don't understand with big government. And they've never understood this. And the Democrats don't understand it. And you have some Republicans that don't understand this. Because some of them are just as bad. I'm not just going to flip this towards the Democrats. It's you got Republicans that's on board with this too. They don't understand that when they put a corporate tax on a company, that company or the individuals that own or run that company, they're not paying for that. Folks, we're paying for that. We are paying that. We're getting double or triple taxed for this. It ain't the corporations. I have been saying this and saying this and saying this, and I've been trying to get this out here to the public. If you don't understand economics, I'm breaking it down very simple for you. Again, what happens when you put more taxes on a corporation? The middle class flips the bill. And again, here's how. Corporation makes a product. They set a price for that product. Within that price cap, it's the cost to buy the materials, to manufacture the said good, and then they put on an extra percentage that is going to be their profit. So with those three things combined, who's paying for it really? We are. We're paying for the product, the materials that went into it, and then we're also paying the company a small percentage, and that's their profit margin. So if the Biden corporation puts a tax on corporations, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this up to everybody, under President Trump, let's see here. Let me bring this up. So under President Trump, we were looking at about 21% under Donald Trump for the corporate tax. Under Joe Biden's plan, which was introduced here back in April, the corporate tax is going to be going up to 28%. You can actually bring up any of these numbers online yourselves anywhere. Just look up corporate tax rate last 4 to 8 years. You can find it on any site, and it'll bring it up, and you can see the same information that I'm reading. Under Donald Trump, we're going to go ahead and bring this up. For the global, whole world, under Donald Trump's 4 years under his administration, the U.S. was, for the corporate tax rates in industrial nations, he got us down to the middle bracket. In a list of all the countries around the world, he took us down to 25.7%. The United States was sitting in the middle. That's pretty damn good, folks. That not only builds business here, it has businesses from other countries coming in because we're at a lower rate than some of the other ones that have a higher rate. And we were growing. This country was growing, and it's still growing. Don't get me wrong. But we'll get into that other issue with what's going on right now, which is kind of killing the growth rate right now. So Donald Trump brought us in at a 25.7% under the industrial nation's tax rate. Now, under Joe Biden, guess what that's getting ready to go up to? Biden is proposing under his corporate tax rate 32.34%. Now, folks, the highest country in the world with the highest corporate tax rate is Portugal. They come in at 31.50% on their corporate tax rate. Biden is going to raise that. 32.34%. Do you know what this is going to do? This not only will erase everything that Donald Trump had done for us, it's going to make this country non-competitive. We will become a non-competitive country to any organization, and it's going to drive companies out of the United States. And this is why, here the other day, the chair for the economic advisor, Cecilia Ross, that's why she said what she said about this global minimum tax hike. That they were putting a global minimum tax hike with all the other countries to make it even across the board. So that companies couldn't get out and take money offshore and keep it away from the big federal government. Not paying their fair share. Folks, they're paying it. They're leaving the country because of the taxes. It does hurt businesses to a degree, even the big ones. But again, we're paying the American public, and even some of the private sectors, we're actually paying the bill. The corporations are not. What it does for the corporations, though, these big taxes, it does up their materials. And if you up taxes on a corporation to the point where you're taxing their materials really high, you're going to tax them out of business. Or you're going to tax them to where they leave the country, where they can get the materials to make said goods at a cheaper rate. Again, it's simple mathematics, folks. Simple mathematics. Did anyone catch the job report here the other day? So the job report came out. It was extremely below normal. And what did Joe Biden say? This might be one of the most craziest things I've ever heard a president of any administration ever said. When he was interviewed about it on live TV, you know what he said? He said that was perfectly fine, that we're going on the right track. We're going on the right track? You lost jobs. We're going on the right track? That's not the right track. Why would you even say that for? That's not a good thing, Mr. President. That's a bad thing. And all your coherent, irrational mumbling, that's a bad thing. If your dementia has got to the point where you can't understand that job loss is bad and you think it's a good thing, God help us. God help us. Folks, I'm not making this up. You can see the clips. They played them multiple times the other day when the jobs reports came out. That's what Joe Biden said. It was a good thing. We're on track to make progress. No, we're not on track to make progress. That's a bad thing. Joe, that's a bad thing. I really do, folks. I really do worry about where we're at right now under this administration. It's bad. And it's only going to get worse with what I'm showing you here. So the other thing that came out of this Chris Wallace report, and like I said, I'm not a big Chris Wallace fan. And no, I'm not a big Fox Nation or Fox News contributor, nor am I a big fan of theirs either. I really don't care for the drive-by media, any of them. And by the way, that was coined by Rush Limbaugh. So I'm going to steal that. But the drive-by media and Chris Wallace did make some good points here the other day. So the other question that came out of this interview with the economic secretary, Cecilia Rossi. He basically asked her, he said, why the government, can't rely on just trusting the private sectors and the public sectors with financial growth and stability. Her answer, basically, in a nutshell, it was a long, drawn-out answer because the government doesn't trust the private and the public sectors. That so many words were incompetent. So you've got the Biden administration and you've got big government telling us, like always here, especially during the pandemic, we're morons. We not only don't know how to take care of ourselves with viruses, apparently, we're too stupid to take care of our own financial stability. You and I and everybody else that runs household, has families, children, grandparents that we might be taking care of, we don't know how to financially take care of ourselves. The government has to take care of us. That's what I got out of that interview. That's what I got out of that question. We're too stupid. And even when it was brung up, and I'm going to bring up the numbers here, even Chris Wallace said, well, the GDP is sitting at 6.4%. Unemployment is now down to 6%. Short-term interest rates are still sitting at rock-bottom low numbers at almost 0%, you might as well say. We can't trust the private sectors or the American public? Nope, we can't do that. That was the answer. It went back to, well, we would really like to do this, and we got to have these taxes, and the government, we'd really like the again, it went right back to big government. Big government. Big Brother's got to look over everybody. We're too stupid. We're like a flock of sheep, and we just can't do anything. Everybody's got to follow the wolf into the wolf's den where we're all going to be devoured. We're too stupid. That's what we got from that. That's what I got from that interview here the other day. We're stupid. There's no other way to break it down. The American people are stupid. That's what I got out of this. And it's just been like with everything else. Like I said, with the coronavirus, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know how to sanitize our own house. We don't know how to wash our hands. We have to wear masks and social distance because everybody's stupid and doesn't know how to cover their mouths. We don't know how to clean up after ourselves. We're just idiots. Everybody in the health field, we're idiots. So we did a total lockdown for over a year. What has it gotten us? What has it gotten us? Nothing. Everybody's still in the same boat. Only now, instead of everyone with lockdown and you got to wear a mask and social distancing, now it's well, you can't do anything with us. You don't have a vaccination yet. You're not fully vaccinated. Yeah. So that's what I got from that interview. Pushing forward here, I want to get back to the corporate tax rates of industrial nations, because I really want to show everybody exactly what this tax hike on corporations is really going to do to America. So like I said, under Donald Trump, he put us at 25.76%, right in the middle in a list of every nation worldwide. Like I said, Biden is pushing to take us at 32.34%. We'd be at the very top, the highest taxed country in the world. So I'm going to give you a lowdown here so that you understand just a little bit of where I'm coming from. You ready? Here are the other countries that's going to be ahead of us, under us now, not ahead of us anymore. So Portugal was the very highest tax country at 31.50%. Now they're second under us. Colombia and Australia and Mexico is all at 30%. Germany, 29.90%. Japan, 29.74%. New England, 28%. Italy, 27.81%. South Korea, 27.50%. Canada, yeah, hey, our neighbor next door, 26.47%. You know it's bad when the country next door to us, Canada, is beating us economically. That's terrible. And France comes in at 25.83%. We were beating all of those countries under Donald Trump's corporate tax rate. Now we've skyrocketed to the very highest tippy-top tax bracket under Joe Biden. I'm telling you, it is. We were going to be a non-competitive country. And bringing into that non-competitive, we're already starting to see it. See, so I'm going to bring in the whole inflation debate like I did last time, with mixing it in with the pandemic and what they're proposing now for this corporate tax rate. So I kind of want people here to try to stay along with me to try to understand this. So what's happening with all this? What's the big picture? Well, the big picture is the economic structure that we were set up with under Donald Trump, it's eroded. And I'm not trying to worry people, because I play the stock market as well, and I'm just as much involved in losing money as anybody else. But there's going to come a point here in the next couple weeks to a couple months, the stock market, folks, is going to become volatile. And it's really going to be important, if you're playing stocks, where you put your money. Like for me, for example, I have a lot of my stock in healthcare. Vaccinations, healthcare supplies. Reason being, that stuff's not going anywhere. Now, if you're someone that's in the energy sector, you're in a bad situation right now, because that is becoming very bearish, especially with this whole Green New Deal thing, with them attacking, the oil industry. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. And there's some other markets that's doing really good, but and it may push up, but like that, the Bitcoin or the what's it called? There was one here the other day that Elon Musk was talking about, but it's all cryptocurrency. It's good right now. I don't know how long it's going to stay, especially since the federal government came out here a couple weeks ago and said they plan on, under the Biden administration, they plan on introducing their own cryptocurrency. Well, you know what that's going to do? It's to try to, again, corner the market to bring in more federal dollars to the federal government. I wouldn't trust that either. It's a big scheme here, folks. They're just going to devalue the dollar till it's worth nothing. If you haven't caught on to what I'm talking about in this segment, please pay attention, because this is what's happening. And the signs are here. I'm just making it very clear from my end, from a business perspective. I'm a business major. I'm not the best in the world, but I'm not an idiot when it comes to this. So we're going to look at the inflation debate right now, the issue going on with inflation. Everyone's feeling it. It's just starting. It's going to get worse. You think the jobs report here the other day was bad? Why do you think that was? They have flooded the markets with so much money from all of these stimuluses for the pandemic, all the free government money, flushing trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars into the U.S. economy. Well, what happens when you flood the markets with money? Well, there's a lot of money in the markets, yeah. It does create job growth, yeah. But here's the counteract to that. When you give everybody money to stay at home, and you're still giving money to people to stay at home on unemployment, like there's still people getting a plus $400 to $600 on unemployment checks, you're making more money to stay at home. Doesn't take a genius to figure out you ain't going to go back to work. You ain't going to work a job. And this administration doesn't get that. And then they go, well, we don't understand why there's inflation. It shouldn't be that big. No, it is a big issue. You flooded all the markets with money. And that money's out there, and people, it is true. We're having a sugar rush right now, as I call it. People are spending. And that's fine and dandy. But guess what? You're spending, and nobody's working because everyone's still sitting at home collecting free money, which isn't free money, but they think it's free money from the government. Well, there's nobody out there picking up new jobs. You got all these companies trying to hire people that can't. Well, what happens then? Well, we get inflation. And that's where we're going into right now. We've got lack of supplies because no one's working to make those supplies. With lack of supplies, get into these companies that's already short-handed, they can't meet supply and demand. So what are they going to do? Well, their materials are going up. So like I talked about before, that means, well, they're going to raise the prices. And then they're getting taxed more, so they're going to raise the prices again. And it ain't the companies, and it ain't these multi-million billionaires getting hit with it. It's you and me, folks. You and me. See how that all kind of just comes around back on us, the consumer? And that's what it is. That's how economics works. We're going to float the bill. So speaking of the inflation, so what's going on right now with this runaway inflation that's popping up? Well, we've got labor shortages, like I said, and the food services and retail. You got spikes in the price of lumber and housing going on right now. They just came out here the other day. I was reading this in a couple of different places. USA Today was talking about it. Newsmax had an article on it. I mean, there's been several that's out there about the costs of building right now. If you're trying to build a house right now and this inflation rate that's going on, good luck. If you went in and was going to buy a $230,000 house, add another $35,000 is what they're saying right now on the real estate market. That's how much just in wood supplies it's going to cost you. An extra $35,000 just to pay for and build a house. You go out to places like California, plywood is up for a single sheet, $98 a sheet. $98 for one sheet of plywood. We're not talking a stack. One sheet of plywood, folks. That's not an exaggeration. $98 for a sheet of plywood. I had some friends and family members that were looking on building on for decks or extra rooms onto their houses for the summer. My brother, for example, my oldest brother, was looking onto adding onto his deck or putting a top out on his deck. What could have taken a couple $1,000s is easily now $9 or $10,000. And that's him doing it himself. That's not hiring a contractor or laborer to do it for him. That's him doing it himself. My brother is very good with his hands. I know he's a very good, when it comes to plumbing and working on things around the house. One, that's what he does. But I mean, when I had a plumbing issue here and we was redoing bathrooms here, he came over. He's a whiz at it. I would trust him to a professional plumber. But I mean, folks, when you're having to pay that much money just in materials to do an add-on top for a deck, what would cost you maybe $2 or $3,000 costs you $10,000 now? That's insane. Nobody's going to pay that. Nobody can. Nobody can afford that. Here's another example. Shortages in new and used cars. I have talked about this for months now on my podcasts. You go to a car dealership, they're having problems getting chips in. Ford and Chevy have already come out and said, this has been almost 2 months now, that they have, with the chip shortages and part shortages for all their electronics now that go into motors and things, they don't have them. They can't get them in stock, or they can't keep them in stock, or those chips being sent into the United States, they can't get it. costs are going up. So now they're back to making vehicles now without all those expensive chips and things. Now, on the good news, I guess you could look at this, since I'm trying to look at the positives and the negatives here. I mean, I guess if you're a mechanic, folks, I guess you're probably doing the happy dance right now, because you don't have to mess with those electronics. I mean, that's a wish come true for mechanics. You can just go in and fix a part or a motor or something on a motor, and it's easy. You don't have to do all this diagnostics, and you're back to the old days, like in the 80s, where you could just go in and change out a part, and there you go. There you had it. Anybody could do it. So I guess there's a positive to that, but, I mean, like I said, shortages, not just in new cars, used cars. People are buying used cars. And there's no supply going back into the demand. People are trying to keep a hold of what they've got. Even if it's a car with high mileage, people are going to fix it. Because when push comes to shove, if you've got something you can drive, rather new or used, it beats walking. It beats riding a bike. So, I mean, like I said, folks, these are just some of the signs that I'm trying to show people early off here in my podcast as I'm talking about this. The issues that's coming down from this administration. And I just had to share that with that corporate tax worldwide that they're wanting to do. Again, they're targeting the wrong thing here. And it's just going to cost jobs, and it's going to cause economic issues. Now, I wanted to get into this going into the last end of my segment here. Did anybody catch the 50 eye-popping earmark requests by lawmakers and government officials for the upcoming federal budget? Now, this was on Fox News. I've also caught it on CNN. Newsmax had talked about it. There's been Politico. There's been many sites that have talked about this same thing. So it's just not one source I'm pulling this off of. But I wanted to read a breakdown. They just capped 51 here on this news article. Lawmakers in the Senate and the House of Representatives have asked for at least $6 billion in extra funding for local projects ahead of the upcoming federal debate. Well, I'm going to give you a rundown for some of these. And you tell me, in a time where we're going to go into, I'm just going to go ahead and predict this. I think we're going to go into an economic fallout. And it could be as bad as depression levels. Don't you think when you're starting to get ready to do the budget, and I know everyone's laughing as I'm talking and saying budget, the federal government budget something? Yeah, we haven't budgeted anything in 20 years. But you would think with as much spending that we've got going on, what we've added to the national deficit, $19 trillion, which, by the way, I just want to make this point, is more than the Civil War, World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined. That's an accurate statement, folks. Look it up. We spent more than a year than all those wars combined. Now, you would think, with me saying that, you would think these people would go, federal budget, we should probably try to budget ourselves and maybe not spend on things that's not needed. Nope. Folks, they can't help themselves. These people in charge can't help themselves. They're going to spend us into oblivion. It's coming. And all these people, I'm just going to address this. It's going, well, that's why you buy precious metals like silver and gold. Really? How many precious metals are there in the world that's going to compare to this? Nobody is going to have precious metals because no one can afford to buy them right now. And two, there's not enough precious metals to save anybody from this. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom here, but realistically, there's not enough silver and gold in the world to back the debt that we've got in this country or worldwide at this matter. There's no way. So these people trying to tell you to buy all this precious metal, there's not enough precious metals out there. I'm a realist. So here's some of this pork spending on an already inflated deficit in government spending that they want to add on. So you tell me what you all think about this. I'm just going to read some of them off. Like I said, there's 51 of them here, and there's more than that. This is just some that they put on here. 7,110,000 for the city of Cottage Grove shoppies. Okay, shopping malls. 3,850,000 for parks that include wellness programs for recreational opportunities. And by the way, as I'm reading through all these, they're different states. That one right there was for Georgia. These are all proposed by Democrats. Well, maybe one or two Republicans that I'm seeing, but a majority, about 90% of these are all Democrats. Here you go. This is a great one. I laughed at this one. $3 million for a smartphone app to track bus locations. That was from Representative Blake Moore, Republican of Utah. Now, I'm sorry, but is Utah having a problem or tracking buses? Are you guys losing buses or something? A $3 million app to track buses. Oh boy. I laughed at this one too. $2,500,000 for a combined climate change management infrastructure and open community art space. That was by a Democrat in Massachusetts. Wow. See what I'm talking about? See this needless spending? This is pork spending on stupidity. And it gets even better, trust me, as I've went down through here. This one was a really good one. This was for New York. $2,250,000 to convert a former commercial pier into a safe, multi-use green space for residents of diversity-populated West New York. Sounds like a waste of money to me. California, you amaze me. $2 million for a pickleball. I believe that's European. And fitness court in a high-density community in Orange County, California. Okay. $2 million for the Arts of African Collections at the Brooklyn Museum in New York. I just have one thing to say about that. I know this isn't a racist comment, so I don't even want to hear comments about this. Didn't they just do something like this where it's just the black community, but they did this with farmers, where only black farmers could get money from the federal government to pay off debts and loans, and now they're being sued because that's kind of a racial discrimination act, and it goes against federal policy, federal legislation. Do you think these things like this target the same thing, folks? Because I do, when you're only including one race, one color for buyouts or bills. Yeah, and I think there's federal laws against that. I did laugh at this one. $1,800,000 for LGBTQ affirming professional medical care in Virginia. Now we have organizations, nurses, and doctors that only, what? But we're only allowed to treat or hire someone of the LGBT community? And we're funding this? I thought all doctors and nurses and facilities that were medical aren't supposed to be biased to anybody. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe something has changed now. Let's go down through here. A lot of these are like for YMCAs and here you go. Here's a good one. $1,500,000 to complete a free public Wi-Fi to the remaining 18 parks and park facilities in California City. My wife laughed at this one. I chuckled at it as well. I'm pretty sure if you're a regular average person, family, I'm pretty sure when you go to a park, you're going outside, right? To get out, to do fun activities. Why the hell do you need Wi-Fi in a park for? You're in a park. If you can't get away from your phone or your computer, you got problems. That's what we go to a park for, to get away from electronics, the day-to-day heavy pace of the world. At least I do. That's ridiculous. Here we go. This is another one. $1,100,000 for a Center for Child and Human Development, including social policy research around race, age, and social class. Wow. Look, folks, I'm going to say this again, and I hope everybody's listening. This country, unlike what our president said under the State of the Union address, this country is not racist. Yes, there are racist people out there in any place around the world, but this country is not racist. If this country was racist to the amount that they're claiming it is, then why is everyone beating on our back door to get in here? This stuff that's proposed, I just read off here, is stupidity. It doesn't make any sense. Why are all these immigrants wanting to come to the United States if the United States is so racist? Doesn't make sense, does it? Nope. Oh, let's look at some of the other things here. Oh, here we go. Another California one here. $1 million for Planned Parenthood Marmotee Community Clinic relocation and renovation. Yeah, let's just give some more money to Planned Parenthood. That's real important. I mean, a lot of this, and I'm sorry, I'm just kind of going down through this. It's just, here you go, $860,000 for green infrastructure developments in Los Angeles. Another Democrat out in California. They are really pushing this Green New Deal. Oh, here you go. This is good. $300 million for charging stations for electric cars. Here we go. Electric cars. That whole Green New Deal thing isn't going to do anything. And I'm telling you now, before I end this podcast, I'm going to stop reading these, but I just want to say this, because this really irks me. For everyone that's pushing this save the world nonsense, and it's nonsense, and you're pushing, well, let's do electric cars. Do you know that it's more non-environmentally friendly to be pushing electric cars? I know people are like, but Mr. Nash, they're not pushing fossil fuels. Okay, I get that. But do you know what it takes to make the car battery for those? Because they're not a standard car battery. These things are huge. There is more waste and negative things that are put into those electric car batteries than the fossil fuels that regular cars are emitting. And then you got to look at the replacing of those batteries and the waste disposal that goes into recycling or getting rid of those batteries, and it's tenfold worse than car emissions. Look it up, folks. Look it up. I want people to look it up. You think I'm a liar? Look it up. Look at what it takes to make a car battery, just a standard battery. Look at what it makes to take an electric car battery. They're huge. They're not something that's small. The stuff that goes into them is very harmful to the environment. And do you honestly think that switching to all those things, it's going to be any better? No. It's not a Green New Deal. It's Green New Garbage. Somebody's pocketing this to make big money in the federal government. It isn't going to do anything. It's like people going, well, let's convert everything to solar power. You don't have enough solar anything to power anything for an extended period of time. Why do you think California has rolling blackouts all the time? For God's sakes, people, use your mind. Use your brain here. It's common sense. That's my last bit on the Green New Garbage, as I call it. Anyway, again, I appreciate anybody and everyone leaving their comments. Coming and watching the podcast, I appreciate it. Again, it's a great Sunday. It's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everybody, all moms that's out there, especially my own. And again, anytime, drop us a line. I'm Charles Nash. Thank you for watching Political Theater, and we'll see you next time.